You're listening to the Telltale Channel. In this podcast, if you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check out my Patreon. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Hey, this is Owen. If you're comfortable, leave your first name and state at the sound of the tiny truck backing up.
Hey, so, my name's Tavian. I live in, a very agricultural, surrounded state, and in school, we were writing an essay about indifference.
Writing an article about what?
We were writing an essay about indifference.
Indifference, right.
We have been studying the Holocaust and
Studying the Holocaust?
reading Night by Elon.
Reading Night by Elie Wiesel, I believe, is what the caller is saying. I don't know why it's breaking up so bad.
And I'm just wondering your stance on indifferences, because I think now, especially, we see a lot of indifference towards immigrants, indifference towards gay people, indifference towards freedom. And I think it's very jarring to see. But anyways, yep, I'd appreciate you. Love your content. Love being educated.
Yeah, I appreciate the call. Indifference is disturbing. It is often disturbing, but I'm trying to fight indifference myself personally in little ways by making sure that people understand or are aware of what's happening. I did a video recently about Dr. Phil going on ice raids with them. Dude picks up some random guy who's lived in the United States basically his whole life, but was technically born in Thailand, to a mother that was an American citizen. If you aren't an American citizen in that case, then that is the closest you can get to being an American citizen without actually being one. I was under the impression that you're automatically granted American citizenship if one of your parents is a citizen. That's what happened to Ted Cruz. That's why he ran for president, because he's born in Canada to a mother that was a U.S. citizen. Why didn't this guy get it? They're not just picking up criminals. They're picking up all kinds of people and increasing it as quickly as they can. That's like a travesty. That's disturbing as it gets, what's happening right now with ICE. And Dr. Phil monetized it. Dr. Phil went around with ICE people, picking people up, making money off of their misery. That is as disturbing as it gets. Now, again, I did a whole video about it. If you want to watch the video, you can. It's on either my Fireside channel. I think it's on my Fireside channel, yeah. Owen's Fireside chat. Just type in Dr. Phil, Owen's Fireside. It'll probably come up. But at the beginning of the video, I read a quote from a book called For the Soul of the People by Victoria J. Barnett. Here it is right here. And it's basically she interviewed, I believe it was her that interviewed this person. She interviewed somebody extremely influential within Christianity in Germany at the time. He replaced Martin Niemöller, who wrote the poem, First They Came for the Socialists, but I said nothing because when a socialist, so on and so forth. So this guy, his name was Gollwitzer. He replaced Niemöller as the head of the basically Protestant church in Germany. Anyway, he said, the experiences in the church were enlightening to people who initially sympathized with Hitler. But the sharper the persecution of the Jews became, the more one had to repress what was happening to them. When I told people about it, how often they said, please don't tell me anything. I don't want to know. I shouldn't know. Simply knowing was dangerous. One could betray oneself. One might express, without stopping to think, one's horror. That's why a great proportion of the people held this knowledge away from themselves. And after 1945, they could, in a subjective sense, correctly say, we didn't know because they didn't want to know. That belongs to the principles of a regime of terror, and here they worked. We have a responsibility to know. That is what I'm trying to do. I want to make sure everybody knows what's happening. In Germany, there was little they could do, but the fact that the regime didn't want them to know should be enough to tell you that it was important. It was important information. They were afraid of what would happen. Russia says today that if their borders are breached, if they're in danger of losing control or whatever, they're going to launch a nuke at whatever country attacked them. Like if the US puts boots on the ground, goes into Russia and heads for the Kremlin, they're going to nuke the US. That's what they've said. But who are they going to nuke if Russians turn on the system? Who are they going to nuke if people get sick of what's happening, pick up guns, walk to the Kremlin, and bust their way in? Nobody. There's nobody to nuke. Hitler could size up armies. He could determine, not very well, obviously, sometimes, if he was capable of taking on the Soviet Union, or if he could take this island or take France or whatever. But he had no way of sizing up the possible negative ramifications if all Catholics, for example, turned on him. Like if the Pope came out and said, lay down your arms, don't fight for Hitler anymore, how much of his army would leave? Even a 10, 20, 30% drop, even a 5% drop could mean a loss, could mean that now people can take Germany. It's harder to fight when the battle is coming from within. And that is why Hitler hid it from people. He didn't want them to know, because knowing is dangerous for Hitler. You personally may not be in a position to do anything. Maybe all you can do is protest. But the more people know, the more people are in positions of power at key moments to do something about it. Maybe you can't do anything, but the guy that sits at a desk in the FBI every day can do something about it. The more people know, the less likely it is to work. People say protest doesn't do anything. It does. It does do stuff. I used to think protest was useless. It is not. Politicians do not like protests. They try to shut down protests by force a lot of the time. Certainly foreign militaries have stormed in with the military, guns blazing, to take out protesters. Look at Tiananmen Square in China. And we in the US have the benefit of knowing that it's very unlikely that the US military will come in to break up protests, because we still have that right of protest right now as it stands. We need to use it. It is not useless. Spread the word. Know. It is your responsibility to know. That is the enemy of indifference. To know. Anyway, thank you for the phone call. I appreciate that.
Hi, Owen. Sorry, this is Mary in California. I took you literally and left my name and state.
Perfect. Not enough people do that. I appreciate it.
And that's all.
Well, you could have given me more if you wanted, but yeah, I'll take that.
I just wanted to, I made a comment, and I still manned Elon on your recent podcasts. And I just hope you could take a look at that, and if you think it's a good argument, you have the ability to amplify it.
Unfortunately, I get thousands of comments a day, and I don't know how to sift through them. YouTube has like a back end where I can search for certain terms and I can narrow it down a little bit, but it's not perfect. Later on in the voicemail, I think you try to give me your username, but you didn't give me a complete one, and I'm just not even sure how to find it. But we'll continue on with the thought experiment anyway.
And I also wanted to say that I believe it was you who was raising funds for the Secular Student Alliance.
Yes, and the line.
I'm planning on trying to start a chapter at my community college.
Good. That's fantastic. Again, powerful people do not like protest. Powerful people don't like other people being aware of what's happening. And creating community like that is the first step, is one major step to dissent, to fighting. That's really good news. Glad to hear that.
Santa Barbara City College. We'll see how that goes. My username on YouTube is Mary Me Grant. I think they throw some letters after my name or numbers after my name. Thanks for listening. I did use the word steel man in my comment. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I appreciate the voicemail. Again, it's not really like YouTube's system isn't really good for searching through comments in that way. I'm sorry I wasn't able to find it, but I figured I would lay down a steel man for you. A steel man for why Elon Musk threw up the Nazi salute in the most charitable sense possible. How would I justify what he was doing? I'm not going down the road of it wasn't a Nazi salute because it very clearly was a Nazi salute. And he's given his own best argument for that, that he was really saying my heart goes out to you. My steel man would be it's possible, I suppose, that maybe he was trying to just troll the left. He doesn't actually believe these things. He's just trying to get one over on the left because he doesn't like the left because they've attacked him or whatever other thing. I don't really care if that's the case because that exact thing happened by Calvin Robinson. He's a Anglican Catholic Church bishop, or I'm sorry, priest, that threw up the Hitler salute as a nod to Elon Musk, and he was defrocked. They wrote a little article about it here, about like why they defrocked him. And they basically, they addressed that steel man in their statement on it. They said, "We believe that those who mimic the Nazi salute, even as a joke or an attempt to troll their opponents, trivialize the horror of the Holocaust and diminish the sacrifice of those who fought against its perpetrators." That's my position. Even if Elon Musk were trying to troll the left, which I don't believe, even if that were the case, he's trivializing this, and it's not okay. And he's also revving people up. He's whipping them into a blood frenzy, like the neo-Nazis. He's giving them something to believe in. He's signaling, showing them that he's on their side. And that is unacceptable. Like, for example, like Nick Fuentes, he's a full-blown Nazi, Hitler-loving, Sieg-heiling, whatever. He talked about it. This is why it would be unacceptable, even if that was what Elon was doing.
And then the like straight up, like that was a serious Roman. It wasn't even like a subtle, like a wave, like one of these, like a Laura Ingraham. Remember when Laura Ingraham did that? That was a straight up like Sieg Heil, like loving Hitler energy. That was
So the point is that, like, even in the Steel Man, Elon Musk is breathing life into the movement. He's drawing attention. He's drawing eyeballs to neo-Nazi ideology, even if he was trolling people, and in the process trivializing the real suffering of countless people. I'm not even talking about the people that died in the Holocaust. How many people were adversely affected by it? I don't even know how to calculate that number. I mean, all the way down to like people who had to eat less food because they were on ration cards so that they could, build up their war machine, even down to people who were terribly mistreated in Germany after it fell. How many people were really terribly adversely affected? Too many to count. So it's unacceptable. I don't even care what the steel man is for Elon Musk. Anyway, it is an interesting thought experiment, and I appreciate you mentioning it. You can go back in and leave another message. But yeah, tell me what you think about all this in the comments. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. This dude is a priest in the Anglican Church, or he was before he did a full-blown Hitler salute on stage after one of his events. Listen to this.
This I see as the last stand for the West. This is the last stand for Christendom.
I believe this is like a pro-life event that he was speaking at.
It's make or break time. The whole of the old world is crumbling. Every country in Europe is embracing death. America, as far as I could see, is the only country fighting for life.
What a delusional mindset to be in, right? I mean, it was a pro-life event, so I'm assuming he's talking about abortion specifically, but seriously, the delusion here.
That's down to you guys. So God bless all of you for what you're doing. Please keep doing it. I hope that I can encourage you, and my heart goes out to you. God.
There you go. Full-blown Nazi salute.
And my heart goes out to you. God bless.
People laughing in the crowd. Like they think it's funny.
Amazing. Amazing.
No, not amazing. Anyway, this dude was defrocked as a priest, like nearly immediately. By the way, I pulled this from his Twitter account. He posted it. He's proud of it. He thinks it's awesome. He tweeted this. I got it from his Twitter account. I'm having so much trouble finding him all of a sudden. That's weird. Well, anyway, he basically said that he was worried for his flock because now he can't give them communion and he didn't know what he was going to do and all this other stupid stuff. Like, you didn't think about your flock, quote unquote, before Sieg Heiling? That didn't like cross your mind? Oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. The dude actually, he had a conversation with Joel Webbon also. If you don't know Joel Webbon, buckle up for that one. We're going to listen to that in a second, but just read what the Anglican Catholic Church wrote about when they defrocked him here. At approximately 3:00 p.m. today, January 29th, members of the College of Bishops of the ACC, the Anglican Catholic Church, I assume, were made aware of a post made on X showing the end of a speech made by Calvin Robinson at the National Pro-Life Summit in Washington, D.C. In it, he closed his comments with a gesture that many have interpreted as a pro-Nazi salute. Cut the "many have interpreted" part out. It was a Nazi salute. Don't give these people any ground. It's not something that you interpret as something. It is a Nazi salute. That's what it is. While we cannot say what was in Mr. Robinson's heart when he did this, his action appears to have been an attempt to curry favor with certain elements of the American political right by provoking its opposition. Mr. Robinson had been warned that online trolling and other such actions, whether in service of the left or the right, are incompatible with a priestly vocation and was told to desist. Clearly, he has not, and as such, his license in this church has been revoked. He is no longer serving as a priest of the Anglican Catholic Church. Notice the word there that they use, trolling. They said trolling. The Anglican Church is an offshoot of the Catholic Church, I believe. There's like this graph that we can look at. Let me pull it up. This is a real basic graph. It started out really early, shortly after Jesus died or whatever. Then there was something called the Catholicos. Orthodox used to kind of control Christianity generally, and then Catholicism took over everything. I believe Catholicism means universal, and Orthodox means correct, basically. So anyway, Catholicism took everything over and became rigid and picked up the belief that the Bible isn't the only source of God's truth. It's also the culture of the religion that needs to be passed on from the priestly class. So, 1,500 years ago or whatever, Catholics are like giving communion and they're saying Hail Marys, they're doing confessions and everything, all the things that Catholics do. That stuff isn't in the Bible, a lot of it, but it's part of Catholic culture, and they believe that they're like the big important whatever. So that's an order from God. The Anglican Church didn't really like that. So they split off from the Roman Catholic Church. Protestants also split off from the Roman Catholic Church. The Anglican Church was a little bit later. I think it was around 1530. 1517 is when Protestantism split off with Lutherans. And then Calvinists split off also alongside the Lutherans around the same time, about 1540, give or take. Henry VIII of England severs ties with Rome. That's when the Anglican Church was created. I'm not sure what the Anglican Catholic Church is, or if it's like different from the Anglican Church. I assume they're the same, but that kind of gives you an idea of the system and how it kind of split apart. From what I'm reading here, it looks like the Anglican Catholic Church is a little bit different from the Anglican Church in that the ACC, Anglican Catholic Church, was founded in 1977 and only has like a few hundred congregations, as far as I can tell. In January 1978, 4 bishops were consecrated. The new church continued to appeal to disaffected Episcopalians to join. The Anglican Catholic Church created the missionary diocese of the Caribbean and New Granada in 1982 and consecrated Justo Pastor Ruiz, a former Episcopal priest, its first bishop. So it looks like the Anglican Catholic Church is a lot newer than the Anglican Church. But anyway, they defrocked him is the bottom line. So they said, "We understand that this is not just an administrative matter. The Holocaust was an episode of unspeakable horror enacted by a regime of evil men. We condemn Nazi ideology and anti-Semitism in all its forms, and we believe that those who mimic the Nazi salute, even as a joke or an attempt to troll their opponents, trivialize the horror of the Holocaust and diminish the sacrifice of those who fought against its perpetrators. Such actions are harmful, divisive, and contrary to the tenets of Christian charity." I couldn't have said that better myself, honestly. That was really well said. Those who mimic it, even as a joke, trivialize it. That's really well said. I appreciate that. Finally, we pray that God will give us grace to lay aside our unhappy divisions, and we commend our nation and ourselves to his almighty protection. You know, in my opinion, politics should not divide a church. Churches should be zeroed in on community and loving Jesus, just religion. Some people disagree on some things. You know, some people believe that a woman should be able to make a choice as to whether she gets an abortion, but wouldn't personally get an abortion. Some people believe that, you know, you shouldn't have that choice at all. But those two positions shouldn't divide your church in half, in my opinion. You should be able to function and work together no matter what. And the fact that this dude did this is just evidence that he's a child, he's petty, and he doesn't know how to unify people. He doesn't know how to bring people together. All he knows how to do is divide. And he has no place as a pastor for that reason, if no other. Let's just take a quick glance through this article. This is the Rolling Stone. Priest defrocked after copying Elon Musk's salute at pro-life summit. The Anglican Catholic Church has defrocked Father Calvin Robinson after the priest went viral for mimicking a recent gesture by Elon Musk that really, really looked like a Nazi salute. I wish people would stop saying that. It was a Nazi salute, period. I get why they're saying that, but that's what it was. In a statement released Wednesday, leadership of the ACC wrote that we are made aware of post on X showing the end of a speech made by Calvin Robinson at the National Pro-Life Summit in Washington, D.C. Let me blow this up so I can read it better. In it, he closed his comments with a gesture that may have been interpreted as a pro-Nazi salute. In his closing remarks at the summit, this is the Rolling Stone speaking again. In his closing remarks at the summit, Robinson quoted Musk, telling the crowd, "My heart goes out to you," before tapping his right hand to his chest and extending his arm, palm down, in a salute to the crowd. Actually, that's not exactly correct. Calvin Robinson said it as he did it. "My heart goes out to you." Elon Musk did it. Hand to chest and then outstretched arm. And a second later, "My heart goes out to you." Unconnected things. We all saw what happened. I just don't want us to forget. Musk was embraced and celebrated by extremists and neo-Nazis when he performed the gesture twice while speaking to Trump supporters following the inauguration last week. Musk's intention was unclear, but the gesture has been widely likened to a Nazi salute. No, Musk's intention was completely clear. Everybody knew what happened. Everybody. And you don't need to take my word for it. You can take neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes' word for it. Full-blown, self-avowed, Hitler-loving Nazi Nick Fuentes, basically the leader of the Nazi movement in America today.
And then the straight up, that was a serious Roman. It wasn't even
the Roman salute, by the way. It's just some name that was created for theater 150 years ago. It was not done by the Romans. I don't even know why they call it the Roman salute. It's the Hitler salute. It's the Sieg Heil. If you prefer, it's the Bellamy salute.
Like a subtle, like a wave, like one of these, like a Laura Ingraham. Remember when Laura Ingraham did that?
Yeah, I talked about that on my channel recently.
That was a straight up like Sieg Heil, like loving Hitler energy. that was like a straight up with intensity Roman salute.
So that's what Nazis are saying about it. If Nazis are recognizing it as the salute, I'm comfortable recognizing it as such also. Anyway, the Rolling Stone continues. The crowd at the National Pro-Life Summit applauded raucously after Robinson delivered the same salute in what was a clear homage to Musk. Oh yeah, this is from their message. The church, which Robinson had only been a member of since 2024, oh wow, added, this is not just an administrative matter. We believe that those who mimic the Nazi salute, even as a joke, trivialize the horror of the Holocaust. Yeah. In 2022, Robinson left the Church of England, into which he hoped to be ordained after completing his theological studies. Robinson was not offered a deaconship and accused the church of rejecting him due to his politics. Yeah, so the Church of England, that's the Anglican Church, I believe, right? Let me just verify that. Yes, it is the Anglican Church. So he left the Anglican Church for the Anglican Catholic Church. And I have the article about that here on Church Times about he was rejected a deaconship. And they basically said, we're not doing it because of your skin color or your beliefs or whatever. We just don't have a place for you right now. And you have to have a place to be a priest before you can receive this role or whatever. The London Diocese, or a spokesperson for the London Diocese said, we have a limited number of curacies available, which were considered on a case-by-case basis. In this instance, it's felt that there's no suitable option available that London can currently offer. He briefly served as a deacon in the Free Church of England before seeking a position with the Nordic Catholic Church, a traditionalist Catholic Norwegian church. He ministered at the church for less than a year before jumping to the ACC. That's really interesting. I wonder why he church hops so much. The church did not immediately respond to a request for comment from the Rolling Stone. Among his recent Twitter posts, Mr. Robinson describes quote-unquote wokeness as a spiritual virus. Another, from October 10th last year, gives details of a webinar on climate justice aimed at ordinance, including a session on, quote, what are the theological implications of climate change? He writes, the Church of Woke. This is piffle is being directed at the next generation of vicars? I don't know what that means. I hope I didn't say a slur just now. In another email obtained by Mr. Robinson, Bishop Wickham writes, Calvin's comments concern me about denying institutional racism in this country. In February 2020, the Archbishop of Canterbury told the General Synod that the church was still deeply institutionally racist. Last April, the Archbishops of Canterbury and York welcomed the report of the Anti-Racism Task Force and pledged immediate action on 5 of its recommendations. Mr. Robinson, who is black, wrote on Sunday that he fundamentally disagreed with this approach and described it as divisive and offensive. He says, I do not think the claim that either the church or wider society is institutionally racist has ever been supported by robust evidence, he wrote. Well, you're just wrong. It has. I don't know what to tell you. You know, you want evidence of it? I'll give you evidence. What percentage of black people in a community are leaders of churches versus how many are white in that same church community and hold leadership roles? It doesn't mean that anybody anywhere along the system is racist. Nobody has to be racist. That's what systemic means. That it's just like a system thing. That it just so happens that this emergent property exists. It doesn't have to be a specific person like intentionally doing anything racist. That's just how it works. Even if there are totally innocent reasons for all of this, like, I don't know, the black community just chooses not to go into pastoring for one reason or another, not as much as the white community. It's a systemically racist system which is perpetuated by itself. When a black person, for example, does try to become a pastor of a church, it's more of an uphill battle because it's unusual. It's less common. Again, I don't even know if any of that data is accurate. I'm just providing an example. And that's how it works in government too. Like, people with the name Tyrone or Mercedes are less likely to get jobs. They're less likely that their resumes will be like approved because they're black sounding names. Doesn't have to be a racist actor anywhere in the system. It's just like it's systemic subconscious bias that exists. We should try to correct for that so that bias doesn't exist. Anyway, says Mr. Robinson says that in a meeting with Bishop Mullally, she said to him, Calvin, as a white woman, I can tell you that the church is institutionally racist. Okay, hard doubt. I don't believe a word out of this guy's mouth, but whatever. On Tuesday, Bishop Mullally said, much has been written about my private conversations with Calvin during the discernment process, some of which I do not recognize. Quote, while I believe it right to maintain the personal and confidential nature of the process, I can be clear that, as with all applications for ministry in the diocese, Calvin's was considered irrespective of church tradition or views on politics or race, as is the case for every candidate. So he's playing the persecution card right now and simultaneously complaining that other people are like paying attention to potential sources of persecution. This is just wild. This guy is a complete piece of trash. I'm sorry, man. I don't know how else to say it. Anyway, let's talk about Joel Webbon. Dude went on Joel Webbon. Why does he have a Lincoln beard, an Abraham Lincoln beard? This is just odd to see. He has it here too. I didn't even notice. That is a weird looking, like, style. Okay. Anyway, Joel Webbon is a right-wing extremist, Christian nationalist, Nazi pastor whose primary ideology is Christianity and secondary is Nazism, which I will prove in a minute. But listen to what they said to each other. This came out December 2024, so a month before he did the Nazi salute.
Israel, politically, I think is problematic with these United States of America. I do not think that this is a healthy political relationship. Religiously, spiritually, Judaism, I believe, is a pernicious evil. I really do. I don't think that all false religions are equal. And I think we should be aware of that and talk about that at a temporal level and then also an eternal level.
That is really interesting to hear a Christian nationalist kind of demonizing demonizing Judaism that way. Let me explain. Pretty much everybody on the right has a weird hang-up with Israel and with Jews. Everybody. Everybody on the Christian far right. Some of them believe that, like, Jews killed Jesus and that they're inherently, in their souls, just bad and untrustworthy. Like, it's not like a cultural thing or whatever. It's like a gene thing. And if that's the case, you're a Nazi. That's what the Nazis believed. And these two fit the bill pretty closely. The other set of far-right Christian nationalists are obsessed with Israel, like, to a weird degree. They call themselves Zionists because, as an ideology, Zionism is a belief that Jews should control that region of the Middle East in its entirety. And it's an inherently far-right, nationalistic, extremist ideology. I talked about this recently, but if this is like the first video you've seen of mine, which is statistically likely, I'll mention it one more time. Zionism is a far-right nationalistic ideology, and as such, got along with the Nazi ideology really, really well. In fact, they even made deals with each other, Zionists and Nazis. At the time when the agreement was signed, August, I believe, 1933, Hitler was trying to push Jews out of Germany. He didn't have broader ambitions yet, or he didn't tip his hand to show us that he did, at the very least. He was just trying to get him out of Germany at the very least. And Zionists signed a pact with Hitler. I believe the Havara Pact is what it was called, something to that effect, to allow Jews to escape Germany with most of their assets if they were going to Palestine. Modern day Zionists are obsessed with Israel because they believe that Jesus will, when he returns, he will return in Israel at the temple in Jerusalem. And then, the Jews will be judged and they'll all die a horrible death. You know the whole bit. So they need Israel to exist so that it can be destroyed according to their eschatology, their apocalyptic beliefs. Like Mike Huckabee, for example, he doesn't give a shit about Jews or Israel. He wants Jesus to return. And them being there is a fundamental piece of that. So that's why I say right-wing nationalists, right-wing Christian nationalists all have a specific view of Israel. It's just that some of those right-wing nationalists want Israel to exist. And it seems to me that we've found a couple of people that don't want Israel to exist and don't want Jews to exist. That's clear as day. If not from the Hitler salute that Calvin Robinson gave, then the vile, psychotic things that Joel Webbin has to say. Joel Webbin went on Stu Peters' TV show. I have a bunch of stuff about Stu Peters if you want to learn more about him. He is a full-blown, self-avowed, Hitler-loving Nazi. You know, says that he believes white people are superior and the whole 9 yards. So anyway, like, the fact that he went on Stu Peters' program at all, the fact that he knows who Stu Peters even is, tells me that he is a Nazi. But when he went on there, he said things like this.
And we should think about Israel. That doesn't mean we have to have a malice, but we should think about the modern state of Israel. Number one, that this is not the same as Old Covenant Israel in our Old Testament. It's not. Number two, it is a legitimate nation state. I'm not saying the way that it was started was legitimate, but all things, whether right or wrong. So Joe Biden, I think he stole the election, but there is a certain point where even if
they're never going to give up on that, are they?
King comes in wrongfully, there is a certain point where he's been there long enough. He is king. It is a legitimate kingdom, or it's a legitimate nation. So my point is saying in saying that is Israel. I think that the founding was one of the biggest mistakes in history that just gave birth to unceasing wars.
Again, I actually agree that it was absolutely terrible and has wreaked havoc on society, on human civilization. That Israel is there and is an apartheid state, has been an apartheid state since day one, basically, refused to work with Palestinians to have a one-state solution. That is wreaking absolute havoc on society. But anyway, I'm different from these guys in that I don't want anybody hurt. I don't want anybody dead. I don't have like ill will toward anybody. I just want fighting to stop. And if Israel could figure out how to coexist in that region, I would be okay with the country being named Israel. I don't care. But they shouldn't lock people out of their political system or lock them out of immigration or anything. It's an apartheid state when you do that.
Wars, and it's never going to stop. But that said, it is a legitimate nation state. And so I think that Christians should view it not as this special carved out people, but the same way we view any other nation, China or Brazil. We should view it as these are people made in the image of God. They need to get saved. There's not any special divine land right for them. Mm-hmm. There's not a special promise of revival for them. We send missionaries just like we would anywhere else, with only one exception. Not that they're special, but there is one exception. There are certain cults and groups that are incredibly hostile towards Christ. But in terms of major world religions, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, there is no major world religion with a more hostile view towards the person and work of Jesus Christ, our Savior and Lord, than Talmudic Judaism.
Wow, dude.
Heartbreak. I have to stop down. Heartbreak. Yeah. Fascinating conversation.
Anyway, yeah. The guy, I watched the whole thing on my Unfiltered channel if you want to find it. Owen Morgan Unfiltered. It was completely unhinged and it was anti-Semitic, but Stu Peters isn't anti-Semitic. He is full-blown Nazi. I'm just trying to draw like a network here to give you an idea of the types of people that Calvin Robinson hangs around, talks with, works with. I don't care if he was trolling. I don't care if he's joking. I don't care if it was insincere. I don't care. He did a Nazi salute and he hangs around with Nazis. It's pretty clear what's happening here, right? To give you a little more context on Joel Webbin, you check this clip out just so you have an idea of like some of the types of like moral beliefs that this little group of nutcases have.
The majority right now would say, well, the Dark Ages were terrible, and they're burning witches, and everybody is oppressed by Christianity.
Yep.
And
that's pretty bad. I agree 100%. Go on.
By Christianity and by, the clergy and it was just this horrible, horrible time. Whereas at that time, the majority would disagree. The majority during those centuries would say, no, Christendom is great. We love Christ. We love his church.
By the way, Christendom, I looked it up recently because Jehovah's Witnesses have a different interpretation. It's a kingdom set up in the name of God with a king that is a representative of God. Vatican would be Christendom, kind of, because the Pope is God's vicar on earth or whatever. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that Christendom, quote unquote, represents all of Christianity and is evil. But I guess he wants Christendom, apparently.
We're making incredible advancements. We've pushed back on the darkness and on driven literal demonic spirits out of northern European tribes and places and the Americas and all this kind of stuff, and making incredible progress, incredible discoveries and charting new maps and innovation and inventions.
Innovation and inventions and mapping is a good thing in your mind? Then trust me, you don't want more Dark Ages. Do you know why they're called the Dark Ages in the first place? He said there was witch burning and stuff at the time. But that's a good thing. That just led to more innovation. What is wrong with you? And let me just, give this a listen. The Dark Ages are called such because historians from the Renaissance period viewed the time following the fall of the Roman Empire as a period of intellectual decline, with little cultural advancement, widespread illiteracy, and a lack of significant artistic or scientific achievements, essentially seeing it as a dark time compared to the classical era of Greece and Rome. This perception is largely considered outdated by modern historians who recognize complexities within the period. That's why it was named that in the first place. Of course there are complexities. Of course there's nuance to everything. But the Dark Ages were a bad time overall in human history. It was not pleasant. There is an eternal struggle in society between progress and traditionalism. There has always been a struggle between the two. I want to move forward. I want America to move forward. Of course, taking some steps back at the moment, but set that aside. I want us to move forward. I want us to progress. I want us to have better literacy rates, happier people, more wealth for everybody instead of being concentrated at the very top. I want prosperity for everybody. But every time people try to make progress in history, there's the church standing in the way. There's the church fighting back with everything that it has, trying to force us back into a traditionalist mold every single time. Go back to every major event, major political event in U.S. history at the very least, and you will find people on the wrong side using the Bible to justify their atrocities. And the right side, to be fair, using the Bible to condemn atrocities. But the point is that the church has always stood in the way of progress, always. And it blows me away that he kind of signals to these virtuous things like technological advancements and literacy rates and everything else, while not realizing that what he's trying to do would make that worse. Or maybe he does realize and he just doesn't care. I don't know. I can't tell.
Northern European tribes and places and the Americas and all this kind of stuff, and making incredible progress, incredible discoveries and charting new maps and innovation and inventions. And
this is just like straight delusion right here.
And charting new maps and innovation and inventions. And so I'm of the persuasion that I think the whole idea of the Dark Ages is a psyop. I think that the Dark Ages was actually a golden age, and that the Great Enlightenment is actually the dark spell that has come over the West, and that if anything, we're in the Dark Ages now.
Brother, get help. That is a psychotic thing to come out of your mouth. We're in the Dark Ages now. He mentioned the Enlightenment. Thomas Jefferson was one of the Enlightenment founders, if you will. along with other people from the era. And the idea behind the Enlightenment is that, let me just define this. The Enlightenment was a philosophical movement in Europe during the 17th and 18th centuries that emphasized the use of reason and logic to understand the world, promoting ideas like liberty, progress, tolerance, and individual rights, often challenging established religious and political authority in favor of a more rational society. It's also known as the Age of Reason. And the Enlightenment is responsible for all the good things that we have today, all of them. Like I said, there's the church standing in the way when we try to make progress. The Enlightenment movement moved us forward despite the fact that the church was fighting. That despite the fact that the church benefited from the Enlightenment principles, we had to drag it along, kicking and screaming the whole way. Would we have the internet if we entered a dark age rather than an age of enlightenment in America in the 1700s? Would we have cars? Would we have the literacy rate that we have today? I doubt it. Based on everything that Donald Trump is doing at this immediate moment in history, seems pretty clear to me that it's going to make things worse to have a kind of a Christian nationalist system. That is like blatantly obvious. I would just give you another idea of the types of people that Calvin Robinson hangs around. Listen to what Joel Webbin had to say in this conversation.
If Pete Hegseth...
by the way, if you're watching 10 years in the future, Pete Hegseth was just sent through his confirmation hearing not too long ago to become the Secretary of Defense, I believe.
Were to answer these women who are asking him about women in combat truthfully and say, Madam, Senator, I don't think women should be in the military, period. And in fact, I don't think you should be a senator either. This is a man's role. Go home. He would not get the confirmation. But what that would do is it would open the door to so many men, young men who are thinking and seeing the world that way and realizing this is all wrong. This is not a debate about whether women can be in this kind of combat or that kind of combat. This is a debate about men's place in the world versus a woman's place in the world.
This is what they do. They're chipping away at rights, fundamental rights that we believed were already established, and there's no question about them. Like birthright citizenship, that's established, period. And it is established. But Trump is trying to chip away at it. That's just one example. Women's suffrage, that's established. That's a 19th Amendment, I believe. That's not going away, but they're chipping away at it as much as they can. They're starting a movement. You know what happened when enough political figures, started getting loud about alcohol and how frustrating it was that people like drink and all that stuff? They passed a constitutional amendment to ban it. And you know what happened when senators said, wow, we were real idiots back then, let's correct that? They passed a constitutional amendment to repeal it. It doesn't matter what roadblocks are in the way. If there is a loud enough voice screaming that it wants this thing, like the church, for example, screaming about this as an institution, they will find a way to do it given enough time and without enough pushback. That's why this is so disturbing. And by the way, his mention of Pete Hegseth there, let me show you why he's talking about Hegseth in the first place, complaining about women in the military or whatever, because he said this.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal.
Like, that is absolutely not true. That's a complete lie.
Has made fighting more complicated.
No, it hasn't.
We've all served with women and they're great. Mm-hmm. It just, our institutions don't have to incentivize that in places where not traditionally, over human history, men in those positions are more capable.
Men are more capable? Where are you getting this? Men are not more capable than women in the military. Anyway, like I said, there is a kind of movement that's rumbling under the surface right now, trying to find a place to erupt, find cracks in the ground that it can hit with a sledgehammer so that it erupts and it's successful. That's what we're watching happen right now. And Joel Webbin, Pete Hegseth, Calvin Robinson, they're all symptoms of the same problem, right-wing extremism. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. This is Stu Peters. If you don't know him, he is like a full-blown Hitler-loving neo-Nazi, like self-avowed, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, he's had Kash Patel on many times. And I talked about this in another video, but Stu Peters responded directly to what Kash Patel had to say. Patel is the FBI director appointed by Donald Trump, and he went through his appointment hearings and was asked about his affiliation with Stu Peters, because he's been on his show like 8 times. And Patel denied knowing Stu Peters. Like, I don't know, who is this? Never heard the name before. It's kind of funny. So Stu Peters, like, tore him down so hard, it was entertaining. Listen to, this is from Stu Peters' show. He played this clip. This is January 30th, 2025.
Mr. Patel, you frequently associated with and sometimes praised extremist figures with well-documented histories of racism, anti-Semitism, conspiracies, and the like.
Confirmation hearing of Kash Patel.
You familiar with the Stu Peters? Does that name ring a bell?
Like a deer in the headlights.
I'm sorry, what
are you?
That's what they do that every single time when they're in a confirmation hearing. They don't want to answer the question or they don't know what to say. I'm sorry, what was that? Can you repeat yourself? Count up how many times in the confirmation hearings on either side people say, I'm sorry, what was that? Couldn't hear you. One more time, please.
Familiar with Mr. Stu Peters?
Not off the top of my head.
He made 8 separate appearances on his podcast. He promoted outrageous conspiracy theories and worked with a prominent neo-Nazi.
Dude, he is a neo-Nazi.
They're more Ted Nugent. It goes on, list goes on. I'm just asking, when it comes to your association with individuals, why are so many of them in this category?
I.e., why are so many of your associates Nazis? Okay.
My association, as you loosely define it, is by appearing in media over 1,000 times to take on people who are putting on conspiratorial theories and to devour them of their false impressions and to talk to them about the truth.
Oh, so you completely disagree with Stu Peters, is what you're telling me, and you have only ever gone on his show to debate him on conspiracy theories. Is that what you're saying?
That is something that I will always continue to fight for, Senator. And I certainly don't believe that an individual who was the first minority to serve as the Deputy Director of National Intelligence for this country is a racist.
Pulling out the race card. Kash Patel, of all people. Again, neo-Nazi. Hangs around with neo-Nazis. Is himself a neo-Nazi, in my personal opinion. So now this is Stu Peters' reaction to it.
All right. So clearly Kash Patel is lying.
God, I love this.
Yeah, he absolutely does know who I am, and he's very familiar on a lot of different levels, and I'm not going to get into that right now because
bro, look at the hat. Look at the hat he's got here. Bad Goys, Goys. Tell me the dude is not a Nazi. Nobody uses that term. Nobody. Unless they are either Jewish, which even then, I don't know of anybody. I don't think I've ever heard a Jewish person ever use that term. Either that or neo-Nazis is the only 2 types of people that use the word. A goy, I believe, is a Yiddish word for non-Jewish person, if I'm correct. We have a Jewish person in the chat. Maybe he can tell us. A term used by Jewish people for non-Jewish person. Yep, there you go. That's what it is. So he kind of refers to himself as a bad goy. That's crazy.
And I'm not going to get into that right now because this guy is going through a Senate confirmation hearing. So,
did you know Jesus was a Jew? I mean, I say that as a joke, but you know, in World War II, Hitler's denomination of Christianity, positive Christianity was what he called it. They actually tried to spread the belief that Jesus was not Jewish, for real. I'm not even joking. So there are a lot of people around today that don't even realize that Jesus was Jewish. Anyway, sorry, a little aside there.
A Senate confirmation hearing. So I'm not going to get into too many personal specifics at this point, but that's flagrantly false, what he said there. And I don't want to hear this 6 million D chess stuff about how Kash Patel just has to get through this part of it, and then he just has to get in there and infiltrate so that he can root out all of the rats and the Jews. And
what did I tell you? This is what I'm talking about. The dude's a full-blown Nazi. All the rats and the Jews. Oh my God, bro. Get help.
You know, the globalists. No, that's not what's happening.
This Alex Jones impression. Love it. Globalist, Trotskyite.
Happening here, okay? He's doing what his people do.
His people, being Indians.
It's just inherently in them to lie and be deceitful.
That is a Nazi belief. Inherently in them. Look, there is a disparity between the white community and the black community. Between the white murder rate, the black murder rate. There is a disparity there. There's a difference. Now, why is there a difference between like crime rates between the two communities? It can be one of two things. Either it's the result of, it's like a cultural thing or like a societal thing or whatever that can be fixed. If it's a societal problem, we can do things to improve the communities. We can build colleges that give the black communities an opportunity to get education, try to rise them up out of poverty or whatever else. There's a way to fix it if it's a societal issue. The other option is that it's a genetic issue, that they're just genetically different. And that means you're a Nazi if you believe that. That is a Nazi argument. Straight up Nazi beliefs. So when Stu Peters says this
here, okay, he's doing what his people do.
When he says that, it's him basically saying that they're genetically inferior. He's giving the same reasons to dislike a minority group that Hitler gave for disliking minority groups. He's a neo-Nazi. Now, why did Kash Patel go on his show and have friendly little chats with him 8 different times over the years? Why did Kash Patel help Stu Peters sue people and stuff? Why did they work together? Why do they have each other's phone numbers? It is, of course, because Kash Patel and Stu Peters work together, know each other, hang out.
It's just inherently in them to lie and be deceitful.
Literally words off of Hitler's lips.
And he's lying. He didn't say, yeah, I know Stu Peters. As a matter of fact, I know Stu Peters well enough that my organization that I founded called Fight with Kash, which was designed to protect people against defamation by the media, real defamation, not the ones that Greenblatt is into.
I don't know who that is, but I get the feeling that it was more Nazi.
Real defamation, like at the hands of the Rolling Stone, who made up a story out of whole cloth and then attributed a quote, just blindly wrote this quote out of midair, something that I never ever said before.
Okay, great. Let's talk about it then, Stu. You say the Rolling Stone. All right, let me just wrap up that part real fast, though. The point is that Kash Patel created an organization to help Stu Peters sue people for defamation, for libel, or whatever. They know each other really well, obviously. We have a neo-Nazi in the Department of Justice, or in the FBI. There's a neo-Nazi in the FBI now, leading it. Anyway, about what he said here. The Rolling Stone made up a quote about him.
Cloth, and then attributed a quote, just blindly wrote this quote out of midair, something that I never ever said before, and then published it with quotation marks around it, and then said, Stu Peters said.
Okay, let me show you the evidence that he absolutely did. This is the video that Rolling Stone was referencing when they said, quote, Hitler was a hero. This is what they were talking about. And I don't even know if it was in quotes exactly, but okay, listen to this.
It was war. Horrific things happened. Lots of people died. It was World War II. I don't believe that World War II happened as a result of the Holocaust. I don't believe that that was the reason for the war.
Okay, then you live in a delusion. Well, I guess you could say that the war started so that Hitler could take over Europe, and taking out the Jews was just like the driving motivation behind all of it, I guess. And the only reason the other countries fought against Hitler was because he stepped outside of his country and tried to take other areas. If he had just continued doing that in Germany, nobody would have given a probably. But all right. Anyway.
I'm asking a lot of questions about that. People don't like when I ask a lot of questions about.
No, I had questions and I asked them and they were answered. I don't like it that you are rejecting answers that have been proven over and over again. You refuse to accept the answers and you frame your questions as statements.
That Hitler may have been an evil dictator, a ruthless person that murdered millions of people. I don't know, because of the propaganda that surrounds every war.
It's not about propaganda, brother. You can pick up a book and read it and get the answers you're looking for. You know what? If you want, you can go to the archives, the National Archives in Germany or in the United States, and look at the original documents. Look at like the requisition orders for the ovens and stuff. You can find this stuff. It's around and it's been around for like 100 years or a little bit less, obviously. You're not finding the answers because you don't want to find the answers. You have an idea in mind and you're doing everything you can to come up with the answer that you want. Now, this part is the one that the Rolling Stone quoted.
Propaganda that surrounds every war. But for this, wasn't he a hero? Wasn't Hitler doing the right thing when he ordered these books to be burned and these places to be stormed by force?
That's pretty, I don't know how he gets around that. You said Hitler was a hero, right? Didn't he say Hitler was a hero just now? How else am I supposed to interpret this? And Kash Patel apparently set up an organization to help him sue the Rolling Stone for quoting him as saying Hitler was a hero. This is like the most dead to rights case of free speech that I've ever seen. I don't know what factors would have to exist for him to win this libel suit. There's no way, right? I don't even know where it is. I don't know where the libel suit is, and it's like in the process, whatever. But and then he comes out here and he says things like this.
Yesterday, Newsweek called me a pro-Hitler Nazi. Raw Story called me a pro-Hitler Nazi. I don't know how these people get away. I mean, they said that I was a Holocaust denier, which is completely false.
Yep.
Okay, right. Completely false, totally.
Emphatically false. As a matter of fact, they made up a quote out of whole cloth and said, Stu Peters said, quote, Hitler is a hero. I have never said, any such thing.
I don't know how it gets any clearer. That's what he said, right? Am I the idiot here? Anyway, that's Kash Patel's association with Stu Peters. Let's continue listening to him just tear down Kash Patel over denying knowing him. God, he's so petty. I love this to death. I love watching him try to scratch his eyes out like a cat.
I never said it. And we proved that I never said it. And so Fight with Kash came to the aid of Stu Peters and the Stu Peters show because of Kash Patel personally, who personally knew me because of multiple appearances on this program.
Says he proved that he never said it. Okay.
And then we exchanged contact information.
Like, that's not even how it works. I'm sorry. I gotta, just 1 second. You're bringing a lawsuit against these people. They would have to produce evidence to my knowledge, to protect themselves in this case. A defense against defamation is the truth. If you told the truth, then you're safe. They told the truth. They would have to provide the evidence. He doesn't provide evidence that he never said it. That is proving a negative. That's not how it works. Anyway, whatever.
In the Stu Peters show because of Kash Patel personally, who personally knew me because of multiple appearances on this program. And then we exchanged contact information and we directly text via personal cell phones constantly. And we're on the phone with each other as Fight with Kash was hiring a team of
Yes, you're very cool. You both know each other. Wow. You're a big shot for knowing Kash Patel. Super impressive, Stu.
Attorneys to represent Stu Peters and the Stu Peters Network against the Rolling Stone. So he absolutely knows who I am. If I go on a show 8 times, I don't care if I've had 10,000 appearances. If I go on a show 8 times, I'm not going to deny knowing the person.
Fair enough.
And like, what could he have said here? Do you have any evidence to suggest that Stu Peters is this neo-Nazi that you're claiming that he is? I mean, what is that even? Can you define neo-Nazi?
Are you really? This is the route he's going. Define neo-Nazi. All right. Somebody that stands for the values that Hitler famously stood for, that the Nazi platform was all about. That's a neo-Nazi. Or somebody that stands for white nationalism. That would be a neo-Nazi. I think it's pretty clear that Stu Peters is a neo-Nazi. If that's not clear enough, give it a second. In another part of this video that he did, he clarifies it for us.
Is that like anti-Semitism or safe and effective or vaccine? Are we just changing the definitions to meet our grandstanding talking points while you're up here doing absolutely nothing because you know that I'm going to get confirmed anyways because Miriam Adelson wants me confirmed?
Okay, yeah, that's a whole different thing. So he thinks that we don't have a definition for the word Nazi then, is what he's saying. Apparently, it's so ambiguous and amorphous and confusing that a definition for neo-Nazi doesn't even exist. There is no such thing, apparently. How about this, Stu? Here's my definition of neo-Nazi. You and your beliefs. In reality, if they fit the beliefs that Hitler had, then it's neo-Nazi ideology. Racism, the belief that people are superior based solely on their skin color or whatever. Listen to this next part where he's talking about it. Same video.
So Kash Patel is continuing to fight for that. That's why he came on my program 8 times. We're going to do a montage. That's what we need to do. Alex, get a montage together. I know that you can hear me. Get a montage together for the 8 times that Kash Patel was on the Stu Peters show, and so that we can show the public and show all of our viewers exactly how Kash Patel came on to disavow and devalue, my conspiracy theories and all my lies.
And I certainly don't believe that an individual who was the first minority to serve as the deputy director of national intelligence for this country is a racist.
That's so low and disgusting of him to do, but okay.
Yeah, I'm an Indian, so I can't be racist. So
yeah, he has to pull out the diversity card.
Let's check out.
That's hilarious.
Hold on a second.
He does that because he thinks that it's going to earn him brownie points with the right for showing that he put the left into like an unwinnable situation. Oh no, we can't condemn him as racist because he's the first minority. Blah, 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 blah. No, you're racist. You're a neo-Nazi. Everybody can see that clear as day, and I don't feel backed into a corner at all. The only people that you are making feel anything at all is the far right. People who think you just owned the libs. And it's honestly, truly, deeply disgusting. Anyway, keep listening to Stu here. He lays it out pretty clearly.
A very well-studied young man. How's the relationship between the Indians and the Pakistanis?
So he's drawing out the point that there is racism among Indians. Totally agreed. Yes, absolutely. Because the two countries don't like each other very much.
Yeah, they're so at each other's throats that it's the entire world's been terrified.
But I thought that if you were an Indian, you can't be a racist. You can't have racial prejudice. I mean, and
why did you even ask the guy? It's like he didn't want his opinion on it.
I get it wrong all the time too. Yeah, I'm a white exceptionalist.
You catch that? One more time?
Yeah, I'm a white exceptionalist. I am white, and I think that's exceptional, and I recognize that we are an exceptional race, a superior race of people who has...
Yeah, but you're a ginger, and that knocks you down about 15 points. Sorry, those are the rules. I'm just kidding.
A race of people who has built everything successful that has ever been known to man.
This is Nazi ideology right here. This is Nazi ideology. The belief that white people are superior genetically. They're smarter, they're faster, they're stronger. Just calling out to the Aryan ideology. The Nazis, or like Nazi ideology, is built on the belief that Aryans were a super race of what they called Übermensch, supermen. They were people that were smarter, they had higher IQs, they were stronger, they were faster, they were better at everything, taller and everything. And the only reason that they lost those qualities and looked like everybody else is because Jews intentionally came in and like tainted their bloodline by marrying into the bloodline or whatever. That's the Aryan belief. Stu Peters is laying it out here. I don't know how it gets clear. He's like espousing a belief in Aryan ideology
that has ever been known to man. It wasn't built by Indians. Nobody goes, wow, this is such an amazing and quality innovation. Oh, who did that? Oh, it was the Indians.
They don't? I mean, Indians have done plenty of innovating.
Wow, this is such a great culture, and I really love its history. I really, really love the nostalgia of this place. Well, where is that? Nobody ever says India.
They don't? You know what's particularly funny about this? The word Aryan originated in the Proto-Indo-European region. It was from epic stories written in Sanskrit. It was about Aryan people, which at the time it kind of meant noble. It's so funny to me that he is trashing Indians right now and endorsing like Aryan ideology. The irony is so thick. Aside from that, Indians do plenty. Indians contribute to culture. They have a beautiful society. They have innovations and things like that. Didn't they just like land something on the moon recently? There are a lot of inventions that come out of the United States. And I would venture to say like fewer major inventions have come out of India in the past 100 years. There's a reason for that. It's either a societal thing where they just haven't like encouraged innovation in the same ways or to the same degree that the United States has, or it's genetic. They're either genetically inferior or there's just a societal thing that can be changed. Stu believes they're genetically inferior. That's the hang up here.
Nobody's going, oh, wow, the Indians have done such great things that we need all of them.
What are you even talking about? You think nobody praises Indians for doing good things?
Now we need them to run our federal law enforcement apparatus. We need them to program everything so that they can devalue everything. I mean, all of this just sounds so effing ridiculous. But I digress. There he was.
Jesus Christ, dude. What is wrong with you? Honestly. He's just a straight up disgusting human being, truthfully.
On Capitol Hill, lying and talking about how he doesn't know me.
Boy, that really got to him, didn't it? Now we know how to now we know how to get to Stu Peters. Tell him he's irrelevant. Nobody knows him.
I think that's the play here. I think we need to put the montage together. And, it's probably just wasting our time because at this point, everybody who has an IQ over a ham sandwich understands what's happening with the Trump appointments, that they're not Trump appointments. They're Miriam Adelson appointments.
Yeah, a whole big complicated thing. He seems to be opposed to money in politics to some degree, depending on certain things. And Miriam Adelson definitely donated like a ton of money to Donald Trump, like $100 million or something, right? Sheldon Adelson's wife. Did Sheldon Adelson die? I think he did, and she's got all the money now. Anyway, yeah, I don't like that either. But that doesn't mean by any stretch of the imagination that Stu is right about literally anything else.
They're Benjamin Netanyahu appointments. They are
oh boy, here we go.
They are appointments that will serve the foreign secular homosexual nation state of Israel, the
oh boy,
illegitimate pedophilic nation state of Israel that was arbitrarily drawn on a map on May 14th, 1948, so that we could get these people their own place, so they could get the out of our business and everything that we're doing. Thousands of times they've been expelled from 109 countries, and we have citations for every single one of them.
Oh my God, dude. Get help, seriously. I have lots of criticism for Israel. Lots. But I do it because of how they're treating Palestinians. Stu Peters is criticizing Israel because he f***ing hates Jews. Get help, bro. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. This is Nick Fuentes. If you don't know him, he's the one that famously said, "Your body, my choice," became a big meme on the twit and went completely out of control. He's a full-blown, self-avowed Hitler-loving Nazi. And I'll show you some clips from him in a minute. But first, listen to what he's had to say about Donald Trump's first week in office, or first 2 weeks, or however long in office. Fascinatingly, he's opposed to what Trump is doing right now. Did not see that coming.
I do want to express some concerns here. seeing Trump move in such an aggressive way, it is a little bit frightening.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Because it is destabilizing. And when you see the might of American empire directed like this, you realize that this has a lot of gravity to it. There is a weight to it.
Is this something he didn't realize before?
America is this juggernaut, and it can crush everything in its path.
You know why he didn't realize this before, apparently? Because it's never been used against him, intentionally or otherwise. You know, there is a system in place in the United States that has existed, just our way of doing things has existed in its current form since it was founded in 1787. That system is large and slow moving, so fixing it is an uphill battle. Changing it for the better is an uphill battle. When the system was invented or created or whatever in the United States, we had slaves here, and black and white people weren't allowed to get married or anything. There were so many limits, full-blown segregation. It was maybe the ugliest place in the world at that moment in history. I don't know. It was bad. And it took 100 years after slavery ended to legally end segregation and Jim Crow laws and things like that, to put in place the Civil Rights Act, I believe is what it was, of 1965. It took 100 years before we could send black people to schools with white people. That system is still moving forward, and we're still trying to change it to make it better, because there's still a lot of institutional problems with it. It's not even about anybody in the system being racist. Nobody in the system needs to be racist. But when you get things like people with black sounding names are hired for jobs less often, there doesn't need to be a racist actor in there anywhere. It's just like the system is leaning people away from equality. It's the problem. Recognizing that is the first step, and trying to correct it is the next one. And we've been working on that since forever. I've been working on it since I entered political activism, trying to correct it and make life better for people. Nick Fuentes doesn't realize that, because he's never been the victim of the systemic problems that exist in the United States. He's saying, boy, it's scary to see what the U.S. government can do. I hope this isn't weaponized against us. Brother, it's been weaponized against people for a long time. And if you just opened your eyes and looked around, you would have seen that that's the case. It literally took fascist dictatorship for him to see, oh, wow, this could actually be weaponized against people. I didn't realize how powerful it was. Really.
And if we have this extremely energetic executive branch that is making these moves like that, you wonder who gets crushed. And you wonder if the good guys might get crushed, people like us.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Well, I mean, he's a neo-Nazi, so neo-Nazis are the good guys in his head. People are going to get crushed, good or bad, in your head, however you define good and bad. People of all backgrounds, they're all going to get crushed. And you know what? Maybe he's kind of knocking this around the old noggin right now, because his last name is Fuentes, and his parents were immigrants, I believe, or one of them. I could be wrong. He said he's a quarter Mexican, so maybe one of them is an immigrant. I don't know. Maybe he has Mexican family members that he's worried about. You'll find a lot of the time these people don't care about anything until it affects them personally.
Like the Groypers, people like opponents of Israel, opponents of the H-1B visas, whatever you want to say.
That's it. That's the one. I didn't even think about it. He's an opponent of Israel. He's not pro-Palestine. He's anti-Israel as a Nazi. Just want to get that straight. And the Trump administration is very clearly making moves against people who are opposed to Israel. And boycott, divestment, and sanctions, or supporting anything that is oppositional to Israel in any way can put you in the crosshairs of the current administration. That's probably why he's freaked out about this.
Like opponents of Israel, opponents of the H-1B visas, whatever you want to say. When you see the hammer come down, you hope that you're outside of it. It feels good when it's illegals. It felt good when it was Muslims under George W. Bush.
What an absolutely bottom of the barrel psychotic thing to say. I don't know what's going to happen next. Maybe I'm about to speak with intense naivete. Maybe this whole thing will blow over. Maybe it'll get worse. I don't know. But right now, Donald Trump has announced that he's building a concentration camp in Guantanamo Bay for people that he's deporting or plans to deport or is thinking about deporting but hasn't decided yet or whatever. 30,000 people. It can fit 30,000. That is a concentration camp. Not a death camp yet, but certainly a concentration camp. How could anybody be in favor of that or anything even approximating that? It says it felt good when it was like immigrants or Muslims or whatever. How could you say such a thing? They are human beings. They're like me and you. They're no different. You know why he says such a thing so confidently? Because he believes that they are literally genetically inferior. The hallmark of Nazi belief, genetic superiority. You can complain about societal problems until you're blue in the face, but those societal problems can be fixed unless it's genetic. He has defined this group of people as genetically inferior, which justifies literally any action against them, to get them out of the country, to make them stop tainting the white race in his head.
If you're a conservative. But what happens when it's nationalists? What happens when they turn those weapons that were built in the Patriot Act after 9/11 against the Trump supporters? What happens when they turn the weapons they're using against the people in Gaza?
Now you're using your mind for the first fucking time in your life. Good job. How does it feel? You getting a headache?
And the Hezbollah supporters on the campus and the illegals, what happens when they turn that on the so-called real neo-Nazis, the so-called real white nationalists?
Like him.
Real conspiracy theorists, the black pillars. What happens then? And that's why I'm a little bit concerned about it.
I guess he genuinely did not realize how dangerous this really is. I guess he didn't realize how powerful the U.S. government is or the president is, when he decides to just do what he wants, stop caring. You know, not too long ago, Donald Trump announced tariffs on Mexico and Colombia and Canada, and I think some other places. And those countries retaliated with their own tariffs. I don't know if Donald Trump realizes this. Probably not. But we pay the tariffs, not Canada. We do. Tariffs are not a weapon. They're a method of encouraging local industry and discouraging outsourcing. You know, outsourcing has its place. Outsourcing can be useful to a society. It can bring money into the country where it may not have been otherwise. It can bring revenue in. Now, it needs to be spread out to more than just the person that just made that money, of course. But outsourcing has its place in an economy. However, it can be very damaging also, obviously. That's where tariffs come in. That's what they're for. Tariffs are not supposed to be used like this. And what happens next? Canada announces their own tariffs. So, are our eggs cheaper now? Do we have cheaper eggs? Let's wait 30 days. And you tell me, Nick Fuentes, if our eggs are cheaper. Are we in a better position? He voted for Donald Trump. Is our fuel cheaper? Our homes cheaper because they're built with lumber and we get a lot of that from Canada? This is a really bad situation for the United States. We live in a world that is very interconnected. And Donald Trump has just decided to kind of pull the plug and destroy everything, thinking that he's way more powerful than he is. Or let me rephrase, thinking that the United States is more powerful than it is. I guarantee you Canada and these other countries have already, probably the UK, Germany, and other UK countries, and other European countries, they've probably sat around discussing what to do if and when Donald Trump puts tariffs on one of them. I would bet money that the countries already have a plan for what happens next, and the United States is just going to get whacked. And we all know that Donald Trump can't back down to anything, so we're just going to continue to get whacked. Let me know when my eggs are cheaper. And thank you for voting for the guy that's going to make them more expensive, Nick. Anyway, there's been like a lot of stuff happening in the news recently, so I just kind of wanted to I wanted to cover a lot of it like rapid fire based on what some political commentators are talking about. Nick Fuentes is disturbed by what Trump is doing because he fears it could hurt him. But he's also commented on Elon Musk's Sieg Heil. Kind of an interesting thing to hear from a full-blown neo-Nazi.
And then the like straight up, like that was a serious Roman. It wasn't even like a subtle, like a wave, like one of these, like a Laura Ingraham. Remember when Laura Ingraham did that?
She did a Sieg Heil also, but she did it a little more surreptitiously. Yeah, apparently I don't have a copy of it here, but anyway.
That was a straight up like Sieg Heil, like loving Hitler energy. that was like a straight up with intensity Roman salute.
I don't know why people keep calling it a Roman salute. It wasn't Roman. Nobody in Rome did that salute. It's just like a weird name some theater people gave it like 100 years ago or something. It's the Hitler salute, the fascist salute, the Bellamy salute, take your pick, the Sieg Heil. Anyway, yeah, it was with intensity. I'm glad that we can agree on something. Elon Musk very clearly was trying to signal to neo-Nazis that he is one of them. I don't know how it gets more obvious than that. Anyway, Nick Fuentes, let me just show you what he voted for exactly when he voted for Donald Trump. Talk about people being surreptitious and trying to hide their real intent and stuff like that. Let me show you what the intent behind this whole thing was.
When I got into the right wing in 2016, it was about three things: hating women, being racist, being anti-Semitic. Those were the three things that the 2016 revolution was all about. That's what the online right was about. That's what the right wing on Twitter was all about. It was about being sexist, being racist, being anti-Semitic.
Sexist, racist, anti-Semitic.
And I thought everybody was on the same page. As time has gone on, however, the only thing that they remain is racist, and that's it.
He wants more misogyny. My God, dude, get help. More sexism and more anti-Semitism? Holy Christ.
They're not anti-Semitic. They're not sexist. They just beat up on blacks and Indians all the time. And it's almost making me sympathetic. It's like, guys, we got to hit on women too.
That's sympathetic? What are you talking about? What a colossal piece of shit. Is it just me? This is what the movement is about. This is what Trump's movement was about. This is what got him elected. Is it really any surprise that Elon Musk got up there and did a Sieg Heil? Is anybody honestly surprised by that in the end? Like, is it something that just knocks you over, blows you away? I mean, it surprised me, but it's not beyond belief. Anyway, tell me what you think about this dude in the comments. It's just like, he's disgusting. Just honestly, as low as it gets. That's all I've got for you. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check me out on Patreon. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.